It's my pleasure to welcome Linda Castronova today as our program facilitator. Linda is a retired Amherst public school teacher. She is an exercise physiologist and longtime Kripalu yoga teacher. For the past 10 years, she has organized free donation-based daily yoga at Andrew's Greenhouse and the Munson Library in South Amherst. She coordinates Everyday Well-Being, a nonprofit committed to making vibrant well-being accessible to all by providing donation-based classes, workshops, and events that empower people to live their healthiest lives. If you want to know more about that organization, you can find it at everydaywellbeing.org. Linda, thank you so much and take it away.
All right. Thanks, Larry. I really appreciate being here and being asked. I'm going to share my screen so you all know you're in the right place, finding balance. And I'm glad to see so many people here. It's an important topic. I do have to make a disclaimer. I'm an exercise physiologist, as Larry said. I'm not a doctor or a nurse, and I'm not a physical therapist. And the physical therapist is the person. I do know a lot about the benefits of exercise and the way exercise affects the body, all kinds of exercise. But I am not a physical therapist, and they are the people who do serious balance training, vestibular therapy, and that kind of thing. And then there's another specialty called a vision therapist who would help with vision. And those are all components of balance. So let's see, why can't I share this? Oh, there we go. All right, mostly we know what balance is by when we lose it, right? And I like this quote that balance isn't something that we find, it's something that we create. We create it in our body. And unlike something like our kidneys, which I guess we could say have this very, very specific function in the body, balance is something that literally your whole body is involved in creating. And we'll talk about the components of it in a second. But as I said, we know it most when we lose it, when we feel unsteady. But it's basically an even distribution of weight, as you can see from this little picture. It's our ability to maintain a position, whether we're moving or in stillness. It's a lot about footing, and we'll talk about the feet a little bit later, but it's a lot about your footing, but so many systems in the body are involved. Number one system is vision. Having your vision provides the most feedback to the body about your position in space, about the objects around you, about where the horizon is. And you might have had this experience. I have it frequently. If I'm sitting in my car parked at the grocery store and the car beside me backs up, I'm not moving, but the car beside me backs up, it feels like I'm moving. Right? Like it's a little disorienting. And that's just about how, and I don't know if you've experienced motion sickness. Motion sickness is related to this as well, because the eyes they take up so much space in the brain processing. So really important, vision's a really important part. The other important part is this a little bit amorphous thing called proprioception. Sometimes think about it as body awareness, kinesthetic sense, where your body is in space. And there are all these receptors in all of your muscles, in every joint, in every tendon, all the ligaments, all the fascia, even your skin. They're mechanical receptors that just sense movement, they sense compression, they sense stretch, and they send information to the cerebellum and to the brainstem. It doesn't even go into the frontal cortex. It doesn't come into conscious awareness. It just goes into this very basic part of the brain, and it tells the brain how to activate the body to maintain balance. And proprioception is sort of the difference, or to let your body know the difference between how much force it takes to lift up a teacup, for instance, or something small, and how much force you need to lift up a wheelbarrow full of dirt, for instance. Like that is all proprioception. And again, it's this unconscious, automatic, when it's working well, automatic system. The system that probably people think of most as involved in balance is the vestibular system. And there's a picture of it here. Let me move this a little bit. There's a picture of it. Can you see the semicircular canals here? It's your inner ear. So your outer ear catches sound waves. Your middle ear distributes those sound waves through those three little mechanical bones into the cochlea so that your brain can process sound vibration as hearing. But your vestibular system, the inner ear, are these they're called three semicircular canals. They're in three planes, and they're lined with these tiny little cilia, these tiny little hair cells that are embedded in a fluid. So you can imagine it like a little bit of a wave. And each hair cell goes with its own nerve cell to the brain, to the cerebellum and to the brainstem, to give information about the position of your head in space, whether it's right to left, forward and back, up and down. So it's an incredibly complex and really actually quite delicate system. If you've ever had an experience of vertigo, sometimes there's something called benign positional vertigo, which is a disruption of these little crystallization, these little crystals that get loose from the vestibule in the base of the semicircular canals. And if those little tiny crystals, they're like smaller than a salt crystal that gets into those tubes, and it's like a boulder rolling around in there. It's so disruptive, and it causes that kind of vertigo situation. All right, a little bit more about proprioception, just because it's so complex. As I said, the brain receives this information. We do have this vestibular system in the inner ear. The eyes send visual system, but these stretch receptors or mechanoreceptors, they stretch. They also sense compression, and they sense any kind of change in position. This is the whole system that gives you a sense of where your body is in space. And they are really working together in a very complex way. I should have showed you this. This is a little bigger blow up of the vestibular system. So you can see here the three semicircular canals, and you can imagine them lined with those little tiny hair cells. And then this vestibule, it holds a little extra fluid so that the fluid is kind of waving through those canals. And that benign positional vertigo happens sometimes during dehydration, sometimes a viral infection. But if any of those crystallized granules get into the semicircular canals, it can cause vertigo. Okay, why it changes with age. We tend to move less and with less variety. Like, you think about kids and babies playing, they're moving their bodies in so many different ways, and some of them are in constant motion. And so that tends to change as we age. And that feedback system, the cool and amazing thing about our nervous system and our brain is that after the age of about 20, it starts pruning things that are not used. It's like, oh, we must not need that pathway. We don't need this pathway. The brain just starts, and the body does this in all systems too. It happens with your bones and your muscles. If you don't use it, it says, oh, we must be able to use this energy in another way. And so if you're not using your sense organs, those mechanoreceptors in movement, then the pathways to and from your limbs and your body to your brain, they could get trimmed away. And so we move with less variety, and we get less input to the brain. And then the brain says, oh, I guess we don't need that, and starts pruning it away. Number two, these sensory declines that happen in vision and hearing, some of it is just a lack of, or a loss of elasticity, especially around the eyes in vision, the way the lens and the muscles in the eyes work and control. Though when we lose elasticity, we lose collagen, and then they're not as accurate. We don't have as much visual acuity. And hearing happens because of the little hair follicles, those tiny little hair cells that are in the cochlea. Sometimes the actually get broken. They're been overused. Certain tones of sound that have been overused, especially if it's loud music or loud construction work or whatever, those hair cells actually break, and then there's no more input to the brain in those areas. There's other disease processes that happen, sometimes things like arthritis and heart disease, neurological conditions that happen that can affect our balance. And again, it would be easier if it was just one system, but they do all work together. This other thing, the medication side effects is a pretty incredible area that I think is sometimes overlooked. I read a statistic that half of all Americans, so we're talking about from 0 to 100, however old they are, half of all Americans are taking at least one prescription drug, and over 50% of people over 65 take 4 or more. So it's, you go to a specialist in one regard and they say, oh, you need to take this medication. You go to a different specialist in another regard, they prescribe a different medication. And we have to be, I think people are more aware of this now, but the way the side effects and the drug interactions can sometimes affect our balance. Okay, I want to go into a little bit more detail. I love this picture of Yvonne Dolan, 88-year-old figure skater. And she says, as you grow older, if you don't move, you won't move, right? So this same system, the same thing I said before, we lose, as we move less and with less variety, we lose muscle mass, we lose muscle strength, and it's a snowball effect. The less muscle mass you have, the less force you can generate. And then again, there's less feedback going to the brain saying, where am I in space? Where is my body in space? This, probably people know osteopenia, osteoporosis as a loss in bone density. There's another condition called sarcopenia, which is loss of muscle mass. And it is literally from lack of use. Sometimes as we age, we have reduced joint mobility and flexibility, different reduced range of motion, conditions like inflammation, arthritis, and again, just plain old lack of use. If you sit for a long time, when you get up, you're stiffer, and it takes a while to get warmed up. Again, decreased proprioceptive sensitivity from muscles, tendons, and joints, that pruning action I talked about earlier. And we have slower reflexes as we age. So it's a little bit harder to catch yourself, which is why we make these micro adjustments constantly, and that again are below the conscious level. I love this. I wrote this down just so as I don't want to forget. I love this idea from Katie Bowman about nutritious movement, which is that we need these movement snacks all day long. We need movement meals. Like, you can't just, people think, oh, I go for a walk every day, and that might be the only exercise they do. And it's the equivalent of only eating kale. Like, if all you ate for every meal was kale, you have a really healthy habit of eating kale. But if it's the only thing, you're not getting a well-rounded diet. And so I love this idea of nutritious movement, that the more we move and the more variety of ways we move, the healthier the whole balance system and kinesthetic system is going to be. And it really is about little movement snacks. A little bit more often goes a really long way. There we go. Oh, I think I described this already before, so I don't know if I need to go into it. This is a actual microscopic enlargement of the cochlea, those tiny little hair cells, and you can see each one of those tiny little hair cells is connected to its own individual nerve cell that goes to the brain. It's a really incredibly complex. Here's the bottom picture is more of an illustration of this, and you can see they're so fine and microscopic, they're very easy to break off. And those sensory declines, again, especially in hearing, you can have a startle reflex that makes it hard to maintain your balance. I think we maybe underestimate how much we anticipate the input coming to us based on our hearing, based on our vision. Again, the neurological impairments that happen with things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and stroke. And this is just a quick review, but I thought this photo was, or this illustration was really interesting about drug interactions. That a drug gets prescribed because of a medical condition, right? And maybe you're taking supplements or you're eating certain food and there are other drugs, right? And the whole system, and also then you have your own biology, your own genetic makeup that your body's going to interact with that drug in a completely or potentially completely different way than someone else. That's why there is all this testing before drugs are released. But any of these interactions could decrease the effects of the drug, they could increase the effects of the drug, or it could cause side effects. And I just really think that list of possible side effects listed on the tiny print that's given with every prescription, you need to put that under a magnifying glass and read it very carefully, really, really very carefully. There's other factors, of course, involved in changes in balance. There's hereditary and genetic factors, balance disorders like Meniere's disease, which is a disease of the inner ear, of the vestibular system. There's psychological factors like stress and fear and anxiety, fatigue. If you're not sleeping well and you're not well rested, you don't have the reaction time. And then the environmental factors, that's a whole other talk about how to make your environment safe for balance, like getting rid of every single rug that is not a wall-to-wall piece of carpeting, like hardwood floors or linoleum or tile are the best. Your pets are sometimes like a balance hazard. Carrying things in two hands, like carrying your laundry basket down the steps in two hands. It's really better to get a squishable laundry basket that you can pull the handles together and just hold in one hand, for lots of reasons. Actually, if you do this one-sided carry, you strengthen your core a lot more than you do if you're carrying it in front. And if you're carrying something big in front of you, you can't see what's in front of you. So those environmental factors, also weather, lighting, whether you have handrails or grips you can use to get in and out of a tub or a shower if it's not a walk-in situation. Those are all things that can affect your balance. And then this is just a quick slide. I want to just say the symptoms of compromised balance. Clearly vertigo, that feeling of spinning and dizziness. Nausea sometimes is as a loss of balance. People who get motion sick, sometimes it's a vertigo experience or it's nausea. Could be just a headache or a lightheadedness, feeling faint or unsteady, which could have to do with your low blood sugar or your level of hydration, how much sleep you got the night before or the last few nights. Blurred vision sometimes is a component of compromised balance. And then, of course, falling. It's not always about balance, but often is. Why falls happen? Well, we talked about all this: the vision impairment, reduced proprioception, bone and muscle weakness, medication side effects, the chronic conditions we've talked about before, and those environmental hazards. But the one thing I want to highlight here is this multitasking and inattention. Why falls happen is often because we're trying to do more than one thing at a time, right? We're on the phone while we're carrying something up and down the stairs, or we're grabbing something out of the car while we're also trying to buckle somebody into the back seat, or, though also not really being aware of the environment, like these days when it seems like, oh, it's raining outside, but really it's freezing rain and there's ice that's hidden, or there's slippery leaves over a condition of mud, like just really inattention or an expectation that the ground I'm walking on is actually safe and steady when it may or may not be. So have to highlight that as well. How to reduce your risk of falling. This is just a quick overview of it, and we'll go into a little bit more detail. Move often and move more, right? And use support when needed. Great to use poles. Great to use walking poles or a cane or a walker or whatever is going to make it easier for you to move more. And it might even be something like set your phone on a timer to go off every 20 to 30 minutes and put it in across the room. So you have to get up and turn it off, moving across the room. Again, this component of nutritious movement, little movement snacks throughout the day, and a wide variety of movement, not just walking, not just climbing stairs. We'll talk about some of the other ways to move, like reaching and bending and using the whole surface of your foot and all the bones and muscles in your feet. I'm probably not telling anybody anything they don't already know, that strength is a really big factor in falling. Reducing your risk of falling means that you need to be strong enough to hold yourself up, and this nutritious movement is training the body to have the reaction time to catch yourself when you do lose your balance. Because frankly, every single time you take a step, you are putting yourself off balance and you catch yourself at that step. And so one of the really easy ways to practice balance is just very slow walking. Very slow walking, very long stride. And when you hit your heel, you take a long time to get the whole foot down, and then you take the back foot forward very slowly. So every step is an opportunity to practice balance. And the strength comes in. Strengthening and muscular endurance are important because you want to be able to do the whole flight of stairs, however many times a day you have to do it, or you want to be able to take the whole walk without getting tired at the end and then tripping over a root or a crack in the sidewalk, or a pet who's run in front of you that you're taking for a walk. Staying hydrated and rested so that you're not compromised in terms of how, again, the cells are sending those signals in this fluid environment. So staying hydrated, staying rested, regular eye exams so that you are using the corrective lenses that you need. And with a caveat, the progressive lenses can sometimes be a problem. If you're wearing the progressive lenses while you're out walking in the woods and you look down to keep your foot on the path, and the lower part of your lens is set up for reading, it can really throw off your balance. So it's really worth it to have a set of glasses or contacts, whatever you wear, that is for outdoor and only distance correction, and then another set that, for instance, is for a workspace. You have a computer lens and then maybe a bifocal for the reading something close up. That's really worth it. Vestibular training, as I said, a physical therapist can take you through. We'll go through, I'll show you a few of them, these little exercises that you can do to train that. They're tiny, those tiny semicircular canals, but that are so important in your inner ear. And then again, adjusting your environment. Make sure that you have enough lighting, that you're not walking around or thinking your space so well that you can navigate it in the dark, that you've reduced clutter, that there's space around every piece of furniture in the house and in the rooms. Maybe you don't change your orientation or your the way the furniture is arranged in your house too often. And pets, we love them, but they're dangerous. They can be dangerous. Okay, reduce your risk of falling. These are just more specific things. Let me just talk about the miracle of our feet, which there are 26 bones in your foot. If you count the lower leg, that is 28 bones in one foot, 56 bones in both. That's more than a quarter of the bones in your whole body are in your feet. There's 33 joints, and every joint in your foot is there for movement. Joints are designed for movement. And what we tend to do with our feet is shove them into shoes where they don't move. And it's the biggest disservice to the most amazing technology we have at our disposal. The evolution of our feet over millions of years is really, really worth taking care of and exercising and using in all the ways that it's designed to use. So doing things, I mean, with support, doing things like standing on your toes and then rocking back on your heels just to strengthen and again, use the range of motion of your foot. This press here in the middle with you could actually do this right now. If you take off your shoes and socks, you can see if you can make this crease at the most distal end joint of your toes. It's just a measure of the strength of the flexors of your foot, which are a lot about maintaining your balance. Again, like I said, when you take those steps, those muscles that press the toe tips into the floor are one of the main reasons why you don't fall. And we just don't even pay attention. They're these tiny muscles, but they're so super important. So you can see these heel lifts and this toe lift on a flat surface. You can also do it on a step. And this is one of the things, if anytime you're going up a stair, especially if you have a handrail you can hang on to, you could do a few heel raises, you could do a few calf stretches. And the more you can do that in bare feet, the better, so that all the bones and joints in your feet get the movement they were designed to do. And then again, that movement feeds back to the brain and through the proprioceptions, through the mechanoreceptors, the brain says, oh, this person uses their feet. We've got to maintain these nerve fibers. We've got to maintain these connections. This is really important. And if your feet have been shoved in shoes for decades, you can take them out and your brain is adaptable. Your body is adaptable to the point, till our dying day. Our body is adapting to what we do. Our brain is adapting to what we think and what we see and what we say. So it's never too late. These are just the pictures down here just show you, if you get a TheraBand or a little piece of stretchy, I'll show you what it looks like. This is a TheraBand. It's just a stretchy piece of rubber, and you can hook it on a chair, and or hook it on your 2 feet or hold it in your hand, and you can do what's called dorsiflexion, which is pulling the foot back, the toes back toward the knee, plantar flexion, which is pushing it away, eversion, which is turning the toes out, and inversion, which is turning the sole of the foot out, and inversion, which is turning the sole of the foot in. So love your feet. They are amazing, amazing pieces of evolutionary technology that we just take for granted. Improve strength. And with resistance training, you can go to a gym, you can use free weights, you can use the machines, you can see this group of people using the TheraBands, and they're sitting on these balance balls, which is really good for core strength. But it's something, if you can do this 2 to 3 times a week and if you invest even as little as 15 or 20 minutes. I go to Planet Fitness, not my favorite place, but I go 3 times a week for about 20 minutes each time, just to make sure that my bones are getting that resistance and the message like build bone, and the muscles are getting the message build muscle. Of course, the resistance training works best when you're rested, when you're hydrated, when there's rest in between. You don't want to do really heavy resistance training every single day. And when there's enough protein in your diet so that your muscles can actually build. Okay, here's improving proprioception. Again, I'll put a plug in for the feet. One of these little balls, you can see this blue ball here. You can put this under your foot while you're sitting, eating dinner or watching TV, and you're just sending information to the brain about, and again, your skin has these mechanoreceptors. Every bone, every muscle, every tendon, every joint, every ligament has these mechanoreceptors. And so this massage, you can do it again with a little ball like this, but you can also just do it with your hands. And if it's not easy to reach your foot, you just trade foot massages with somebody. Put your foot in someone's lap, take their foot in yours, and give these little massage. It's for one thing, it feels so good, and it's so good for you. And it will, again, enliven the feedback system and the information system from your feet to your brain about how the weight is distributed on your foot, which is really important for balance. Okay, and then there's practicing balance. I can show you some of these things, but let me see if I'm going to move to the back. You're going to have to tell me if you can't see me back here, but standing with is it good? Standing
Well,
with
we can see you, but because the shared screen
right.
is taking a lot of the screen.
Yeah, I'll do that at the end then. I'll just go through these. A quick, easy way to practice balance is to just stand with the hand on a chair and lift one leg and hold it. If you can, with your eyes open and focused on a single point, you should be able to stand for about 40 seconds. That's just a quick, like that's a typical average, good, actually good balance. So standing on one leg for 40 seconds, super, with eyes open. If you want to see how another measure of your balance is to close your eyes, and you want to be able to hold that for 7 seconds. So that's just a quick measure. You can see this is the woman in blue here is a physical therapist. She's doing some of the vestibular training or balance training with this patient, standing on one leg and moving his foot into in the positions around a clock, moving all the way. And you can see he's got his arms out to give that balance. Another simple way is to just, the old sobriety tests, walking heel to toe along a line or along a crack in the sidewalk. Again, you can put your arms out to balance, but practicing it is, again, these little movement snacks that you can have all day, all throughout the day. And again, really important to have something that's safe, that you're, be in a safe place when you do this. If your balance is quite compromised, one of the ways to practice balance is in the corner of a room. Like if you're in the corner, you have 2 walls, one on either side that you can grab onto, and then maybe a chair in front of you. And so then you're not going to fall. You don't want to practice balance to the point where you've put yourself out of balance. You want to progress gradually so that you're challenging yourself just enough. And in yoga, it's this principle of an edge. If I didn't go that far, I wouldn't get benefit. But if I go past it, I risk injury. And so with balance, it's the same. You're going to find this edge. Maybe you're going to just time yourself the first time holding one leg in this kind of half march, mid-march position, and see where you are. And then just practice a few times a day, every day, and see if you can get it to increase slowly and over time. And then this is the last slide I have, and I'll stop sharing, but I think I spoke earlier about vision therapy. There are vision therapists, and they can prescribe more specific exercises to make your visual acuity sharper. But simple things like near and far focus, which is just looking at something close, and then purposefully, like maybe you look at something close for a minute or so. It's actually quite a long time to do it, like focus. Maybe you're reading, but then every minute or so, maybe as you turn the page of a book or swipe, if you're reading a Kindle, you look up and you focus on something far away, maybe out the window, and really focus. Like right now, the leaves aren't out on the trees, so focusing on those small twigs at the end of the branches is a really nice target. And you are exercising your eyes just like you would exercise your muscles. This figure eight is moving your eyes in a figure eight. So often in yoga, when I guide people into a twist and you're looking over your shoulder, you can also move your eyes all the way to the far corners of your eye sockets and then just do this little figure eight there, switch and go the other way. The pencil push-up is a really interesting, let me see, grab a pencil. The pencil push-up is about holding a pencil at arm's distance away and focusing on the eraser, and then slowly bringing it towards you. And there'll be a place where it starts to blur or double. And then that's where you want to really slow down. So you can push it out again and do it again. And you just play with this. Maybe you're going to do it, I don't know, 5 or 10 times, several times a day, this little pencil push up for your eyes. And you'll notice as you practice, as your eyes get stronger, you'll be able to bring it closer before it blurs. And then the 20-20-20 rule is just taking a 20-second break. This is a little bit like the near and far, but a 20-second break every 20 minutes to look at something that's 20 feet away, right? So especially if you're working on a computer or you're watching television or you're reading a book, to really notice 3 times an hour, you're going to look up, look at something 20 feet away, focus on it for 20 seconds before you return. Okay, that was a lot of information. I forgot. I thought that was my last slide. This is just a little bit more. I can put this resource, give Larry this resource if you're interested in the vestibular rehabilitation and training, but a lot of people who experience dizziness and nausea really need specific vestibular training. It's not just exercise. It's not just getting stronger and having range of motion. There are actually movements you can do. This is some of them, but for instance, walking and slowly turning your head while you're moving. So again, you want to make sure you're safe, make sure you have support. Maybe you're walking with walking poles, and you're using your head to turn from side to side, or these vertical head movements, you're looking up and down while your arms are moving in the opposite direction. This one is really kind of tricky. It's a diagonal head movement, moving all the way from one corner, like upper right corner, down to lower left corner while you're moving. One of the vestibular training techniques is to stand on a padded, or sometimes they're called a Bosu ball. It's like a foam or air-filled ball. Sometimes it has nubbies on it, so it's good input to your feet as well, but it's a lot of balance involved. This gaze stabilization is about looking at something that's not moving, but moving your head while you're looking at it and maintaining your focus there. We talked about standing balance practice, and then of course outdoor walking when the surface is not perfectly smooth. It's again great feedback to your brain and your body and your feet and legs about maintaining balance and coordination. Okay, I think that's the last one I have, so I'm going to stop sharing. Happy to take questions, happy to show you some things in more detail if you have them. There's a lot of information.
We'll go ahead and we'll do some questions. If we have some time for a couple visual tips, we can move to that, but I've already seen Phil. I think it's Phil Goslin, but you're on mute. You want to unmute Phil, and then we'll take your question to get us kicking.
Hey, my question is, I've read that there's a Dutch program in which they teach people how to fall. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, but I know that they train surgeons how to fall to protect their hands, and it has something to do with like curling into a ball, but I don't know it. That's a really interesting idea.
Thank you.
As somebody who falls occasionally playing pickleball, I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, I've never been trained on it. I was a wrestler in high school, and there's something that my body does in terms of just rolling with the fall to avoid sort of a hard landing. And it's probably not great that I do it, but when I fall, which is more than I'd like when I'm playing pickleball, I have not had any injuries. So there's something about going with the flow of the fall and rolling with it that is maybe easier said than done, but I'm not
Well,
familiar either with what you're talking about, Phil.
I mean, our instincts are to put a hand out to stop, right? And then that's where you're going to break a wrist or break an elbow or break a clavicle, right? And there's also a flail injury, like when you fall and you're trying to get your balance, you can sometimes really, really injure a shoulder by flailing to try to maintain your balance. So it's a good question. I don't know about the Dutch program, but it's worth.
Sandy's got a question.
Yeah, I have a question, Linda. I did something pretty stupid. I was visiting my stepson in North Carolina, and I got up at night and I had to go down the stairs, and I didn't turn on the light. And I was walking down the stairs, and I missed the last step, and I took a bad fall, and I was getting physical therapy for my foot. And the physical therapist told me from this point on in my life, I should never go down any steps without holding on to the railing. Um, it seemed like pretty good advice to me, but he put the fear of God in me, and I've been very careful. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
I think that's why railings are there and they should be used. And you are not alone. So many people don't want to turn the light on, especially if you're up in the middle of the night and you turn the light on, then it keeps you awake. But it's really important to have lighting, one way to solve that is to put a night light in those places so that especially an automatic night light that comes on automatically when it's dark. So it's not so much light feedback into the eyes, for instance, in the middle of the night that'll wake you up. But I've heard that story so many times about missing the last step, like thinking you've got it.
Yeah, and so you think it is good advice to always
Use
hold
the
on
handrail.
to
Use the
handrail.
handrail. Yeah.
And I appreciate what you're talking about with the laundry basket.
Yeah.
I mean, I just start going upstairs with the laundry basket, and I say to myself, do not hold on, use one arm and hold it up going up. But I like your advice about the laundry basket with the handle that you can just hold on to.
Yeah. Let me show you my laundry basket.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let me see it.
This is my laundry basket. It can hold it with one hand. And it's great. And because I go down 4 flights of stairs to get to do my laundry. So it's a really important thing. So I can hold the railing and I can hold my laundry. But also the added benefit is that it's a one-sided carry, which is so good for core strength. And core strength is one thing I didn't talk about enough in the PowerPoint, but it's a big factor for balance, maintaining in their deep core muscles. I feel like if possible, you should never use a grocery cart. You should only use a basket. You should use a basket so that you have to put things in it and hold it on one side. You can switch sides with it. That's like automatic core strength training. It's automatic strength training for your arms. And so maybe it means going to the grocery store more often. So you're not getting a big, huge load in the cart, but you should only use a basket.
Now, did you get that laundry basket online?
Nope, I got it at Amherst Farmer Supply.
Oh, good.
It's a garden basket. I mean, it's a garden thing. It's just, they come in all different sizes. Best investment, and it lasts forever because like so many laundry baskets break. They have these, when I try to hold it in one hand, they break. So this was a really good investment.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Other folks on the call that are curious about something, have a question. We can see about half of you. We can't see some of you. We can see Barbara Elkins with a question. You want to unmute first? Usually the lower left corner where there's an audio, you want to click on that and that will unmute you.
Okay.
There you are.
Where does one find the stretch bands?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm sure they sell them online. I got this from a physical therapist. So at Cooley Dickinson Physical Therapy, they might have them. A medical supply store will have them. I know Target has a slightly different version of it that's not as adjustable. It's just one size, it's one size loop. But what is nice about that is it comes in 4 different resistances.
Thanks.
Carmen, you want to unmute first, though, please?
Is there a place where I can print out those slides that you showed?
I will send Larry the slide deck and he can make it available to everybody.
Okay, great.
Oh, I do want to show you the thing I was going to show you. I don't know, can you pin my screen so I'm a little bit bigger for everyone? Because I do want to show you another really good test for balance.
Yeah, what people can do is just go to view and hit speaker. Then you'll see Linda completely on your screen versus gallery. Gallery shows you all the small boxes. Speaker will show you Linda. Go ahead, Linda.
I was just going to show you that this leaning forward. So if you just you're standing straight and you lean forward 4.5 inches, just so it's enough where you can feel your feet and the whole back chain of your body engaged. You want to be able to hold this for about 30 to 40 seconds. And it feels like you're about to fall over, but you really engage the muscles of the feet and toes in this way. It's almost like you're going to take a step. I mean, it is what we do every time we walk. We put the center of gravity forward of the foot, and then that the next foot catches it. But doing it in a stationary way, and again, having a chair to balance so that you can hold yourself here and then practice taking your hand off the thing you're holding, you'll feel it very quickly. I mean, within probably 10 seconds, you're going to feel those muscles fatigue, and it will just show, especially if you do it bare feet, how much we maybe don't use the muscles of our feet and lower legs, or don't use them on purpose, I should say.
Oh, there's a hand up for Ruth. Go ahead, Ruth.
Hi, I have a question about using walking poles.
Mm-hmm.
I find I like to use one rather than 2, but I wondered what you thought about the 1 versus 2 in terms of walking, and also what hand position you have. Like there's canes that, and then there's walking poles that have this, or you can put them on top, or you got straps. I'm just interested in all of those things because they're all a little different, and
Yes.
maybe they're
I
all,
wish
maybe it's just
I don't
good.
know. I
Yeah.
wish I knew a definitive answer. It's probably personal preference more than anything. I mean, and also the height that the poles are when you're walking. When you use a cane, you're going to have a little bit more shoulder girdle involved to keep your balance, because you can put more weight on it when your hand is lower. When the arms are out here, like when I think about how tall the poles are for cross-country skiing, it's so that you can have more range of motion in the shoulder. But more range of motion means it's going to take longer to get that pole in place, right? If you do need to fall. I guess my instinct is to say 2 is more secure, but you may also want this other hand free for holding a leash, or, collecting flowers, or, whatever it is that you might be out doing. I wish I had a definitive answer for you.
One thing I find is that with one part of it's all about proprioception. It's about having another source of information about where I am, because the pole is telling me.
Yes,
And
exactly.
really
You have that input from the upper limb instead of just your feet and legs. Really good point.
I was going to make a couple comments. When I think of exercise and movement, I think of my body, and there's a lot of examples you had in your screen, in your sharing, but I don't think a lot about my eyes. And you had a lot of emphasis on eye exercise. I don't know that I've ever thought about like that I'm exercising my eyeballs. And yet you made a really important point about how vision is a part of what's helping you not lose your balance or not
Yes.
falling.
Well, and in yoga, when you do any kind of standing pose in yoga, say you're going to do a warrior or even like a goddess pose, when you are in this straddle position, you're in a balanced position. And if your vision is shifting around, it's harder to maintain your balance. It's in yoga, it's called a drishti. When you find one thing and focus on it, you can balance. So when you practice at home, just lifting one leg, let your eyes pick one thing to focus on, and just like you're going to glue your eyes to it. And then once you can do that for 40 seconds, then play with two things. Play with closing your eyes, whole different ball game. Again, make sure you're safe. You have the walls around you or a chair close by. And also move your gaze, move your eyes, and then move your head. Move your eyes, and then move your head. And then you're maintaining your balance, you're building strength in this standing leg, you're exercising your vestibular system with the movement of the head, and you're exercising your visual system with the movement of the eyes. And all three are equally important in maintaining balance.
Yeah, I mean, I liked even how you were referencing reading a book and that whole kind of near versus far. I mean, it can be subtle but important, I think is what you're saying there.
One thing, actually, one quick test for just general proprioception is wherever you are right now, if you're seated and safe, close your eyes and move your arms to shoulder distance, to shoulder height. Just put your arms to shoulder height with your eyes closed. And then open your eyes and see how close you got to shoulder height. Right? So if you close your eyes and you think you're at shoulder height, and then you open your eyes and you find your arms are down here or your hands are, like wherever they are, it's like, oh, my proprioception is really not where I want it to be. Also, what is the sobriety test? Close your eyes and put one arm out to the side, and then just see if you could take the index finger directly to the tip of your nose, right? So it's literally fingernail to tip of nose. You don't miss the nose, you don't get the middle of the finger on it. That's a sort of gross whole body way of knowing where your proprioception is. Just what you can do, like what I was highlighting on the feet in terms of massage and exercise, you can do the same thing with your hands, with your arms, any kind of touch, any kind of massage, any kind of movement is exercising that communication system between your skeletal and muscular system and your brain. And you want that communication system to be clear and open all the time and strengthening. And the more you use it, the more the body says, oh, that it starts prioritizing those pathways and those nerve signals, and they'll maintain them in good health.
It looks like Elaine has a question.
Yeah, if you fall, do you have a tip on getting up?
Well, here's my big tip is that you should get down on the ground on purpose every day, several times a day, and get up on purpose. So, and when you practice it, you practice getting down next to something that will help you get back up, like a bench or a chair or a counter. And so I really think everybody should get on the ground and get off the ground several times a day. That's a movement snack. In terms of doing it safely, you want to do it one leg at a time, right? So with especially back straight, you want to keep your back straight, getting down, using the chair, lowering to the floor, coming down onto two knees, and then maybe shifting to the side. So you're sitting, and then you're just going to reverse. You're going to come up to your knees, take one leg, and you might need to press on this leg to get up, but it's a lot of strengthening in the legs to do that. It's a great question and something that probably should have been in the presentation to begin with. But I mean, if you have kids or dogs or cats that are on the ground, get down on the floor with them. Get down on the floor and then get back up.
Even though it's harder to get up, get down on the floor and get up. Because I think
Yeah.
all of us are experiencing like, wow, that's a lot more than it used to be to get from down there to standing up again. And you need, the counter or a chair or something like you were saying. So
Yes, but let me just, one other tip about that. It will change quickly. It will change super fast. If you just pay attention with curiosity, like, oh, what does it feel like to get down on the floor? And make sure it's a comfortable place. Like, you're not going to land on a piece of concrete, but like a nice wood floor. Maybe there's a carpet there that's attached and secure. Get down there and then just pay attention to how easy or hard it is to get up. And when you do it again the next day or the day after, you're going to notice a change. So really get curious about it and watch it change rather than judging or bemoaning or, worrying that, oh, this is so hard or it's not like it used to be, right?
yeah. I wanted to see if anybody else had a question or a thought or a concern that you haven't had a chance to get to. There are some of you, we can't see your faces. I'm double checking the chat. Oh, Dick's sells them is what it says. And that was probably put in there when we were talking about where do you get
Oh, the bands.
the band. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I wanted to put a little bit of emphasis on something you talked about, which was environmental factors.
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to work for 22 years in senior living residences, so I was around probably thousands of older adults, and falls were, a significant issue, in terms of downfall. And often there was an environmental reason. Often there were things in the environment, whether they were throw rugs, and I don't mean to overgeneralize, but women more than men were still wearing shoes that were not safe. Like the heels were elevated to some degree because it probably felt good for them to wear those, or vanity, or whatever the reason was. But in some cases, that was unsafe and became the reason for the ankle to turn or the fall to happen. So I guess I'm putting a plug in for looking at your environment, looking at your home particularly, for little things that you can control to minimize falls. Um,
The
and
other thing, I want to say is that if you go to YouTube and you Google and you put in the YouTube search for balance exercises, there are literally thousands of free resources that you can use that will take you through some balance exercises. And also, if it's, I was telling Larry about this before, if you feel like you want a little accountability, you find what kind of mover you are, like what kind of exerciser are you? Do you like to do it by yourself? Then you could just use YouTube or find it on your phone. But if you like exercising in a group or you want even just a partner, is make a phone date. You don't have to be physically together to, as we are proving with Zoom here. You could just make a phone date, talk to the person on the phone while let's stand and practice our proprioception. Let's stand and lift one leg. Let's the range of motion exercises, for instance, just turning your head, keeping your shoulders square forward, just turn your head as far to one side as you can go till you feel that stretch, and then move your eyes all the way in that same direction, and then go the other way. So you're just changing the range of motion. I'll tell you, I think the backup cameras may be the worst thing that ever happened to our neck and thoracic mobility, right? We look at a backup camera instead of looking over the shoulder. And so once you do that, once you practice just the neck range of motion and notice what's happened, if you do it standing, you also then have a balance challenge as well. Then turn your head all the way and then let the shoulders follow. And so then you're working on the thoracic mobility as well. So you can be able to look over your shoulder, change direction, look over the other shoulder comfortably. Again, we get startled and we want to look what's behind us. And if, again, you don't have that range of motion or your eyes aren't used to moving in that way, it can make you unsteady.
Very good. Carol?
Some of the exercises that you showed or described with the graphics are included in some of the exercise classes that are offered at the Amherst Senior Center. So if people are looking for, I mean, the Monday, Wednesday one, is on Zoom. The Tuesday, Thursday is in person. For people, you were saying some like a group or a buddy and some alone. So that's just a local resource we have.
Yeah. I think the Tuesday, Thursday in-person classes are full,
Ah,
but the Zoom classes don't fill. I mean, you know, they
Good.
can always have more Zoomers, so, yeah.
it is wonderful that way.
Thanks for letting us know of options for working on balance. Flo, were you going to share something? No. And it would be important, Linda, to remind people of what is available every morning. Sometimes in the warmer weather at the greenhouse at Andrews, and at other time through the winter, like at the Munson Library.
Yeah.
And any other sharing along that line, so people know, because the motivation factor to exercise is on us.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody going to do it for us.
Yes, every
So-
single morning, 8 to 9 a.m., there's a free yoga class offered. Right now, it's at the Munson Library. In early June, it will move outdoors at Andrews. It's different teachers it's a different teacher each day of the week. I'll tell you that my Sunday morning yoga class has become a yoga for bone health class. So we don't go on our wrists, we don't go on knees. It's almost all standing or lying on your back or stomach. And it's a lot of balance. It's because when you're balancing on one leg, you're letting your whole body weight, you're letting one leg hold your whole body weight. And that is information to the bone to build. Whenever the bone gets compressed or has that kind of resistance on it, the bone cells build and mineralize. And then I'm seeing a question in the chat at the gym, what general exercises do I do? When I go to Planet Fitness, all right, I'll just let you know, and this is it's a great question, because the best kind of exercise for you for resistance are free weights. I do not use free weights. I go and I use the machines because they are simple, they're stable, they let me work pretty much all the muscles in a certain way. I'm mostly doing it for my bones. I do the machines for my bones, but there's a purple room and there's a yellow room, and I do all the machines in those two rooms, and I do one set. No exercise physiologist would let me get away with that. One set between 5 and 10 reps each. And this is the hard part about resistance training. You want to fail before 10 repetitions. So it means that you're working your muscles to exhaustion. It's a heavy weight. A lot of exercise classes where they use the like 2 or 3 pound dumbbell and they're going up and down a million times, that's working on muscular endurance. Also a very important factor to have. You want to have muscle endurance. It makes your ability to move longer increase, but you really want to use the heavier weights, which may not start out as heavy. Like as you're learning it, do 10 reps. You don't want to get super sore. You don't want to be so sore that you don't want to come back 2 days later. But you want to do a balance between your upper body and your lower body, right? So leg extension, leg curls. There's a great machine. It's my favorite machine there. It's actually not in one of those 2 rooms, but it's a machine that you straddle this bar and a thing flips behind and you just push one leg back. So you're holding on to something here and you just push one leg back at a time. It works the entire lower limb at one time. It's a really good machine. I don't know what it's called.
Excellent. We're at 10 after 5. We're close to the winding down time. If there's any last thoughts, concerns, questions that you wanted to ask Linda, this would be the time to do so. Carol? Oh, you're muted again.
Just a quick comment about going to the gym. I used to, because there was a gym between where I worked and my house, and it was so convenient. But what I discovered was that I really liked the machines. I didn't like the free weights. Realized the machines were like going to the playground as a kid and going from the teeter-totter to the maze. So if somebody here is a little hesitant about figuring out the machines, staff were really very helpful about this is how you do it, as was watching people who seemed to know what they were doing. And it just felt like going to the playground.
That's a great point. The machines are also adjustable to your body size. And so you'll learn over time what the adjustments need to be. But you want to make sure that when you're, for instance, sitting on the machine before you start, that you're totally supported and totally comfortable. And there's always a graphic that shows you what you're going to do, like what the movement is and what muscles are working. But if you, I think it's a really good point to add, not all the people who work at a gym they're not exercise physiologists. They might be, but they may just be a college kid, working a part-time job, but they will know how to use the machine safely.
Yeah. And I will say yoga classes, Tai Chi classes, there are a lot of options. The senior center does advertise a variety of things that are available. Um, look up the Everyday Wellness group that Linda's involved with. There's people, many different teachers there. One of the teachers listed does a Zoom yoga class every Monday and Thursday at 10 o'clock. I've been doing them religiously for the last 5.5 years. I mean, because of COVID, that's, for the last 5 years, it was in person before COVID. And they're extremely helpful. They work on a lot of the things that Linda talked about. So there's options. That's the point. And
Yes.
in the end, it's on us to figure out some kind of movement, because back to your quote, if you don't move, you won't move.
Yeah, if you don't move, you won't move. It's so true. Also, you don't have to go to the gym. You can do what I was just showing you, doing that leaning. This is incredibly strengthening to your body. Also, just coming up on your toes and standing on your toes. You'll feel those muscles in your calves, lifting the toes and standing on the heels. Just lifting one leg and maintaining this balance for 40 seconds, eyes open. 7 seconds, eyes closed, you're working on your balance. You can do it every hour, every waking hour. Once an hour would be fantastic. Let me just see if I have anything else here. Tai Chi, actually, we haven't mentioned that. That's such a really great practice, or Qigong. They're standing practices. Tai Chi is 100% balance. It's slow movements. It's so good for your brain and for your mental acuity. In fact, there was a study that compared yoga and Tai Chi in memory loss, or slowing the loss of memory. Tai Chi won by a mile. Yoga is great. I've been teaching yoga since 1991. I love yoga. But when I read that, I went and tried Tai Chi. It is so cool. And it's not strenuous. But it's 100% balance and memory, like learning the flow of the movements and what to do. It's a really good practice. I just want to see if I have anything else here that I forgot to say. I could talk about it for a long time, but anyway, it's very nice.
I know you've got somewhere to be at 5:30, and we committed to quarter after to give you the little break in between. So I want to thank you so much. This was perfect. It really was. You went over a lot of things that are so practical, and then some visuals as well. If you share the screen show that you did, slideshow, I will make sure that gets out. We'll get it out through Amherst Neighbors. If you're not a part of Amherst Neighbors and you want that, you've got to send us an email with your address. And that would be to Amherst Neighbors 01002 at gmail.com. Amherst Neighbors 01002 at gmail.com, and tell us you want this if you're not a member of Amherst Neighbors. Thank you so much. everybody, we had 34 people sign in. That's a big turnout. So clearly this was
Great.
an important topic, as I suspected it would be. Many thank
Yes.
yous.
You're very welcome. Yeah, it's a really important topic, actually, and it is something you can do something about on your own every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
As you sign out, folks, there's a 15-second 3 questions. Give us feedback. We appreciate it. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you. Great program.
Yeah.